What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. And a lot of people have been asking me on stream over these past month, basically, what happened to my old guild and why I am in a new guild. So I've been thinking a lot about how I want to present this video, and in all actuality, I wanted to think about all guilds as a whole and what we've seen throughout World of Warcraft Classic. So today we're going to talk about the top 5 reasons that guilds break up. And this isn't going to be specifically focused on what happened to my own guild, but pretty much all of these reasons bleed into each other within almost every guild dynamic. So I'm sure you all have seen this happen to a lot of guilds on your server. Even if it's not your own guild, server discords are there for every server, so a lot of the guild drama can be kind of public. So I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of this. But if there's something I miss, make sure to let me know in the comments. Of course, as usual, if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe. My name is Sarth, and as always, let's get right into it. The first reason why guilds break up, or why there's real guild drama, or every drama within World of Warcraft right now, is pretty much focused on this one thing. Loot. Loot drama is a quintessential aspect of World of Warcraft Classic. There's 40 people in your raid and a boss only drops 2 to 4 items, and most of those, if not all of those, might not even be something that you could even equip or are an upgrade. There's a lot of items that are even useless that we see drop all too often. The very few items that we all want are so contested by almost half of the entire raid that when they finally do drop, it's hard to get high on the priority list for them. Now, loot drama is the quintessential reason why guilds kind of break up or why players get frustrated with this game. In my own experience, I've seen so many people quit the game over loot drama. I've seen guilds fall apart. I've seen raid teams fall apart over loot drama, and I'm sure you have also, where there's that one person that makes a big deal out of every piece that he doesn't get and starts drama with everyone else in the guild, not even just the leadership. No matter what loot system you run in your guild, you're still going to see people being frustrated by not getting some of the items they really want. And that doesn't mean that they weren't prioritized it. It doesn't mean that the loot council didn't give it to them. They might not have enough DKP, or the item might never drop. Loot is one of the most frustrating things about World of Warcraft Classic, and especially because it's not personal loot like it is in retail, it can cause a lot of drama when an item does finally drop and somebody doesn't get it that feels like they deserve it. Now that leads me directly into my second reason why guilds break up, and that is corrupt loot councils. The loot council loot system is prevalent, pretty widespread throughout World of Warcraft Classic, and this is pretty much where a group of officers or chosen few decide where the loot goes. The idea here is for the people in the know, or the people of each class, or even just officers, to be able to look at where an item would benefit the guild and the raid as a whole. But this system is inherently flawed because personal biases fall into every decision we make inherently. It can even be subconscious. Now, the fear of the loot council is that there is going to be people just voting for their friends, voting for themselves, or making a case for their friends and themselves for all of the items. A lot of times you'll see some people on the loot council get most of the gear or all of the really rare gear. Or you'll see, which is something that I actually personally experienced, is where the loot council actually doesn't take all of the loot for themselves, but some of the people just give out loot to their friends. We saw that in my weekend raid a long time ago and ended up getting rid of those people. I actually was one of the people that started getting a lot of the loot, and I thought it was completely corrupt because I didn't deserve some of that loot. So then eventually I myself got put onto the loot council so that we could fix all of those issues. But no matter what, I think most loot councils do have inherent biases, but a real corrupt loot council is extremely obvious, and it's going to cause a lot of drama and a massive schism within your guild and your raid team. Now, the third reason why guilds break up in World of Warcraft Classic in general is either poor leadership or poor raid leading. Now, this can be just extremely frustrating for guildies when they don't understand why a lot of guild decisions are being made. If the guild's vision is to be a hardcore guild, but then they start doing a lot of things that are significantly more casual, a lot of the guildies might not understand that unless it's clearly conveyed. A lot of times officers, and I even know this firsthand, can have meetings each week for hours and hours on end when a lot of decisions are made for the guild, but if those decisions aren't conveyed, it can be hard for people within the guild to actually understand some of the decisions. One thing I can reference in specific is I took leadership on my guild when we were actually dealing with world bosses, and with world bosses, we worked together with a few other guilds. Our guild being the largest guild on the server, a lot of people didn't understand why we needed the help of other guilds in order to kill these world bosses and therefore sharing the loot with other guilds. Now, the reasoning behind it was usually you don't have 40 people online, even being the biggest guild on a server, and a lot of people might not just respond to a Discord ping at 4 in the morning. So we needed the help of a few other guilds to be able to work together and actually consistently kill these world bosses. But that decision was made between the officer corps. It was attempted to be conveyed to the rest of the guild, but a lot of people had their own issues with that, where they felt like we were sharing loot when instead we were working together towards a common goal of actually getting the world bosses down, instead of trying to piece together and having a group of about 10 to 15 people and then trying to kill the world bosses. After a while of successfully getting multiple dragons down each lockout, everybody fully understood why we were doing it. But without really good communication in your leadership, you're actually going to see your guild fall apart no matter what. Because if all of the decisions aren't fully conveyed in a clear manner, people just make assumptions and then just start talking within themselves and deciding that this is the wrong direction for the guild, even though they might not understand where all the decisions were made and why. And that's just an example of poor communication, but poor leadership in general. If your guild doesn't feel like it has a cohesive leadership with one goal, it's just gonna feel like it's a random community. You don't feel like it's a group of people that you like to play with one goal all together. You want to get the first kill or the fastest clear of the raid content on your server, or you want to just all have this common goal of being casual and playing with friends. If there isn't a core leadership that is piecing everything together, things will inevitably eventually fall apart. Now you may be thinking, why did I also mention raid leadership as well in the beginning of this part? And that's because if you have poor raid leadership, you're not going to clear all of the content, which is not the hardest content, as I believe we all understand now, 15-year-old content. But if you have poor raid leadership, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have very long raid days, and if that happens, a lot of people will get frustrated and burnt out with the game. They're not having fun wiping to the same boss every day for weeks on end, especially because everyone else on their server is just clearing it with no issues. So if you have poor raid leadership, combined with poor leadership in general, you will see a lot of burnout. Now that leads me to number 4. And number 4 is just that point I mentioned, burnout. The problem with burnout in this game is massive. And if your guild cannot recruit to keep up with the burnout, then your guild will eventually fall apart. Inevitably, you are going to lose guildies and raiders during your time span of playing this game. Real world things come up. People decide that they're no longer having fun with the game. There's a lull between loot or any of the other issues that come up, frustrations within the game, losing world buffs, everything taking so much time, because we do all know that this game is extremely time consuming. Friends switching to different servers or new games coming out in general. It doesn't really matter what the reasons are, there's a bajillion of them. But there is going to be burnout within your guild and within your raid group, no matter what. This is inevitable. And if your guild can't keep up with recruitment to bring in enough new raiders or new people to sustain the burnout, eventually you won't have enough people each week to run the raids. That is kind of what happens. Eventually, either the guild leadership gives up or the guild kind of does a merger. No matter what though, if you can't sustain your guild and keep up with burnout, the guild is going to end up falling apart. Now, like the points before, this one does lead into the fifth point. The fifth and final point I have for you guys on why guilds break up in World of Warcraft Classic, and that is going to be cliques or factions within your guild. Small cliques or factions, groups of friends that have these similar opinions or strong opinions within the guild can spread like wildfire. If these are negative opinions towards the guild as a whole, towards loot, towards any of the points we've actually talked about before, it can actually be basically a weed that's going to spread and infect pretty much everybody, to the point of everybody also sees those issues, even though they might not even be there. That's kind of the part that's the scariest. Some people will decide inevitably, and you guys have probably all seen this within your guild, that they got screwed on a loot decision. It doesn't matter what type of loot system you have, one person or a lot of people eventually are going to be deciding that they got screwed over on loot. What they're going to do is complain to their friends. That's only natural. Everybody does that. Then you have their friends all believing that that person got screwed out of loot decisions. So now everybody's focused, hyper-focused on the loot decisions. The next loot decision that goes wrong, where this same person doesn't get the loot they need, or anyone in that friend group doesn't get the loot that they need, they're all just reassuring and reaffirming each other that their points are correct and that the guild should have given them that piece. This is just one example of a clique actually growing in this decision, even though the loot decision may have been the right call. Although, of course, this is a touchy subject because everybody has their own inherent biases and they all think that they deserve loot. Everybody does. We do, I do, you do. You can't deny it. You deserve that piece. It's a personal bias. It's psychology. We can't really escape from that. But if these loot decisions were actually fair and the best for the guild, then people having these little dramas start to grow, and it's actually worse for the guild as a whole. Now, cliques and factions don't really have to rely solely on loot. That's just one of the most easy examples to get this point across to you guys. But if a guild doesn't feel cohesive, like if there's a guild merger or a friend group that only talks to themselves, and I'm sure you'll notice this in your guild discords, you'll see the same people in different discord channels all the time. This isn't really cohesive towards the guild. It doesn't really help the guild as a whole sometimes, because those guild factions can feel like they all just need to stick together no matter what, instead of having this just giant identity as a guild. So to sum things up, the biggest reasons we really see guilds fall apart really comes down to communication, opinions and goals, and expectations. If you set your expectations for what the guild is, if you understand what the guild is, you're not going to have all of these dramas or little fights within your guild, and hopefully you just get to log onto this game, hang out with your friends, and have a good time. This game is meant to be an escape, where we just log on, say what's up to our friends, and do whatever we want. It's a social environment where we can have fun with everybody. But a lot of times, guild drama can seep into the inherent fun of the game and suck it out a little bit. I'm sure you guys have seen some of, if not all of these things come up within your own guilds, especially if your guild has fallen apart. But even if it hasn't, it really comes down to a strong leadership group to unify the guild itself and to bring everyone together whenever any of these issues come up. I genuinely hope that you guys never really have to experience a guild fall apart, so that you can just clear all of this content with all of your friends for the rest of the game, and then move into TBC and just have a blast. I know I didn't talk too specifically about my own guild, but what happened there was pretty much a mix of all of these things, and it actually became a little bit petty and public at the end, where both sides that were factions had both dramas of pretty much every one of these things, and they started taking jabs at each other. When a guild falls apart, it's really a jab to the heart. It feels like you're losing so many of your friends that you used to play with. This happens all too often in World of Warcraft Classic. It's an unfortunate thing, but it is a core part of this game. This game is dedicated and driven by the communities. So if you guys have experienced any of these things, or if I left out any key reasons why guilds fall apart, Make sure to let me know in the comments, although please do keep it quite positive. I don't want you to be so upset that your guild fell apart. Now it actually just gives you an opportunity to play with new people, to make new friendships, and to solidify a new identity. Alright guys, thank you guys as always for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Appreciate it so much. We're actually so close to 10K subscribers, which is just a massive goal. So we're going to do something special when we hit 10K subscribers. Keep an eye out for that, guys. Thank you all for all of the support. You can check me out live on stream on twitch.tv/Sarth, of course. And my schedule is going to be changing a lot, so make sure to join the Discord channel. I guess this is like the call to action of everything right now. But either way, hope you guys are enjoying the game and having the most fun possible. Hope you're crushing AQ and seeing a bajillion death stings and dark edges of insanity. The drop rates are actually way better than we expected. So I'll see you guys all on the next one.